manage that. I haven't got my PhD yet, that was a bit tough. So good evening, hi, I am Zoe Wyatt. I'm doing a PhD in maths, we all make mistakes. This is my first Bright Club, I warn you, so if you haven't finished your drink yet, bloody well hurry up and finish it right now. But I have done a little bit of comedy in the past. I've played the piano accordion. So generally I've been hidden behind the piano accordion and the melodies, so yeah, it's a bit nervous. So why the piano accordion, you might say? Well, I was in undergraduate, I taught myself to play the piano accordion because I was looking to meet a boyfriend. You know, I wanted to squeeze. And the guitar was a bit mainstream. So, yeah, but you know, I was doing an undergraduate degree in mathematics. So you might say, well, Zoe, like where I studied, it was 80% male. So you could say, surely it would have been easier just to go to lectures having showered and you could have met a boyfriend. And yeah, you're right. The odds were good, but the goods were odd. So anyway, so I don't have a piano accordion tonight. My trick worked. So I have a boyfriend now. And the other night we were eating a tiramisu cake and I realised I could make a great analogy to my research. But the first thing you need to realise is that I am utter shite at cooking. I'm monumentally crap. My flatmate is here and she can attest actually, which is great. Thanks, Bex. I appreciate the laughter. I'm really, really fucking bad. I got this crock pot and I once cooked this dish that looked like something that a kid vomits when they're like 2. So to be honest, yeah, I'm really bad. Like I've never fried a chip once, let alone 3 times. If the School of Life had parent-teacher interviews, they'd come, they'd like get my parents there to say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Wyatt, we're really sorry, but you know, Zoe, she's just not that good at cooking. She hasn't quite got eggs yet. You know, her microwave is okay. Her toast is great, but she needs to make more progress. Yeah, so my cooking's pretty bad. To be honest, the closest affinity I've got with cooking is that my memory is like a sieve. So tiramisu, that was what I was talking about. So my boyfriend and I were eating this amazing tiramisu. It was fantastic. And I turned to him and I said, Emmanuel, I said that because that's his name. I will never, ever cook you something like this. And I just want you to know that. So obviously there's 2 things to this. First one is, as a modern, independent woman, everything we do in our lives should be shared, so I'm not just going to bake him a bloody cake out of nothing. And obviously number 2 is I couldn't bake him a cake even if I wanted. So it's quite ironic then that the kind of maths I do is a bit like baking. Now I'm not saying that I go out and I take Instagram photos of all my equations, hashtag sexy maths, hashtag no filter. No, but there's a nice analogy I'll get to in a sec. So what do I study? That's what I haven't told you yet. So I study Einstein's theory of general relativity. So Einstein wrote this down in 1915 and it completely revolutionised our view of Newtonian physics. Okay, so what I want you to think about is we've got points in space and then we add to them their position in time. Okay, so this gives us a 4-dimensional manifold. And Einstein's view was that we could treat this manifold as the gravitational force acts on particles via the bendiness, the curviness of this manifold. Okay, but then also this curviness is affected by what matter is contained within the manifold. Okay, so it's a kind of like a self-replicating loop. You might be saying, why the fuck do I care about this, Zoe? So, how many of you, out of interest, got here tonight using Google Maps? Yeah, come on, admit it. Yeah, I use it every day in this strange foreign country. So GPS, like, crucially relies on general relativity. Yeah, if you stuck a satellite up right now and you didn't put in any corrections coming from Einstein's theory, in 24 hours, your GPS would be incorrect by 10 kilometres. So, man, it's tough Pokemon Go, yeah? No chance. So GR is very useful. But like any mathematical theory, we have a key equation. Okay, so in quantum mechanics, you have the Schrödinger equation. In electromagnetism, you have Maxwell's equations. And maybe you don't know, but James Clerk Maxwell just lived around the corner from here, actually, in 1800s. So in general relativity, we have what's called the Einstein equations. Now, these are a kind of partial differential equation, okay? PDE, don't freak out. So, partial is like maths speak for shit just got complicated. Okay? So maybe think of it like instead of the matrix and the matrix reloaded and the matrix revolutions, in maths speak we'd say the matrix, the partial matrix, and like the partial what fuck matrix. That's how we do it. So that's P. So then D is differential. Okay, so this is how one object changes with respect to another object. So like how many meters do you walk per unit time, or how many episodes of Netflix do you watch per unit day? So that's D, that's differential. And then the last one is equation. Okay, so turns out, just to give you an idea, the Einstein equations are really complicated. And what I mean by this is like Pythagoras is post-it note size. Yeah, the Einstein equations are at least A2. Okay, maybe even A1. Yeah, so they're really complicated things. But obviously, if none of that made sense, it doesn't matter. Because it turns out studying these PDEs is a bit like cooking. Okay, it's a bit like baking. So what do I mean by this? I mean that when we solve a PDE, we start with some initial conditions. We start with some ingredients, yeah, flour, eggs, butter, what else goes in a cake? And we start with these initial conditions, with these ingredients, and then we put them together using this equation, yeah, using this recipe. It has to go in very precise ways how we mix things together. It's why I'm really bad at cooking. And then if we do everything right, I have been told that we get a cake. Okay, so and this is what we call the solution to the PDE. So what kind of solutions do we get from the Einstein equations? Well, these are things that you know. So for example, one of the solutions describes the sun. Yeah, it describes the geometry around the sun, and that tells us the orbit of the Earth. Another one is like the rings around the planet that has rings. Saturn, I think. Another one is describing the big bad black hole, Sagittarius A star, the centre of the galaxy. So these are all very physical objects, yeah, things that exist out there in the universe. And so when we've got this really nice mathematical theory, we want to check that it's physically reasonable. Now, I really like this phrase, physically reasonable, because in maths we say this in a purely naive manner. But I've decided that it's going to be my new go-to question when I ask someone. So my old go-to question, when someone said, oh, so I've got a new boyfriend, I say, well, is he good? And I just don't finish the sentence, I let them do it. Is he good looking? Is he good in bed? But anyway, so a new one is going to be, is he physically reasonable? So we want to check, are these equations physically reasonable? So the first question we ask is about determinism. Okay, so if I start with some very specific initial conditions with my ingredients and I follow my recipe precisely, will I only get this one particular cake? Yeah, it's not like on a Thursday I get this cake, on a Friday I get like a bomb, on a Saturday I get pancakes or something. I want to make sure it's unique. Yeah, and this is really important because we like to think of science as testable. You know, something that I can do the experiment today and the answer I get will be unique. So if I did the experiment 2,000 years ago or 2,000 years in the future, I'll get the same answer. Obviously that's a nice sentiment to bear in mind as we go into the festive season. So that's one of the questions we ask. The second question we ask is about stability. So how stable is our cooking to small changes in the ingredients? Yeah, so you know that when you cook a cake, I'm speaking about we here, not me. If you put in like 10 grams too much flour, you still get a cake. Yeah, but there are equations that exist out there, maths equations, where that doesn't happen. That when you add in just slightly too much of one ingredient, everything blows up. So we want to check if this doesn't happen. Yeah, and it turns out for the black hole, we still don't even know this. Yeah, if we change these ingredients just slightly, we're still not sure that the black hole that we get will be stable. So I hope I've given you a small flavour of the research that I do. And rather like a plane at an airport, I shall now announce my departure. I've been Zoe Wyatt and thanks for listening.